The fact that, we've been oppressed. And when I say we, I mean the children of Israel back in the biblical days. I mean the people that were here under the thumb of the fallen angels before the flood. I mean, those people have always kept us down and tried to depress us and oppress us and make sure that we were underachievers and made sure that we didn't have the inspiration and the desire to try to overcome what we were going through, that we would just be happy with what we got so they could have everything else. And now we're living in a time of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence has developed to the point where it's almost to the point where, these people that came here and their ancestors, they don't need us anymore. They think they don't need us. And they've got the ability to have perfect slaves, not just more intelligent slaves, but these are perfect slaves. These are slaves that are machines. These are slaves that are programmed. These are slaves that do exactly what they're told. They don't need any food. They don't need any water. They don't need any rest. They don't need a vacation. They don't have families. They don't care about things like that. And they just work, and get everything done. And that, if you look back, originally that's what they were looking for. They were looking for slaves on this planet to do whatever they wanted them to do so that their children would always have slaves. And end up being that it's not the indigenous people on this planet that are populating the planet. It's them that are populating the planet for themselves. And so I know all this is kind of deep for a sermon in church, and a lot of this has scientific value and what do you call it? Archaeological, value. And I mean, you've got to really explore into geography and archaeology and the evolution of modern mankind, anthropology. You got to look into all that to really understand what I'm talking about. But the point is, we're coming into a time where we're going to need somebody to help us. And we're going to need somebody that we need to follow. We're going to need organization. We're going to need structure. We're going to need hope. And we're going to need inspiration. And we're going to need a foundation to build on. We're going to need something solid to carry us through this. And anybody that has lived, a fair amount of time on this earth, we know that there's things that happen that we can't explain. There's things that happen that we don't understand. There's good things that happen to bad people and bad things that happen to good people. But in the end, we know that there's a higher power out there, and we know who the higher power is. And so our job is to spread that word, shed that light, show the path, tell people who they can count on, show them by example what it means to have God bless you. We need to make sure that everybody understands, just like in the scripture that I read, we need to make sure that the whole earth praises God. Everybody in the world praises God. We need to make everybody, and we're not going to be able to do it by ourselves. That's where we call on the help of the Lord to help us do his work, to help us spread his word, to help us show people his good doings and his wonders and his creation. We need to make people understand that this didn't all happen by itself. And we need our children to understand that those things that interest them, those things that excite them, a lot of people are excited by drama. A lot of people are excited by gossip and reality shows and watching people fight each other and watching people bicker and watching people at odds with each other. Even to the point where we like movies where there's a lot of killing in the movies. There's a lot of action and adventure, and most of these people aren't godly people. They're ungodly people, but it seems like a lot of fun. It seems like they've got some really cool toys, and it seems like they do some really fun things, and it seems like they go to really cool places, but we can have something better than that. We can show our children something better than that. And you see in the end how it always ends up. The bad guy doesn't win, the good guy wins. The good guy is the one that always comes out on top. Good always overpowers evil. And that's been throughout history. and we've seen evil things done, but good things happen to overcome those evil things, and those evil things have to go somewhere else. But there's always plenty of people for the devil to prey on. But right now he's working overtime. He's got a long way to go and a short time to get there, but he's actually doing fairly well because he's got a lot of people not believing in God. He's got a lot of people that are confused. He's got a lot of people that are going through trials and tribulations and turmoil. And as long as he keeps us separated, we can never come together and make the good things happen for us. And it's going to take one hand shaking another hand, true fellowship, human betterment, and deeds of kindness. That's when we can feel God's presence. And that's our job, is the human betterment. Every day we have to try to become a better human than we were yesterday. And we know the things we need to work on. We don't need anybody to tell us what we need to work on. Sometimes we need reaffirmment. Sometimes we need somebody to say what we've already been thinking in our hearts and in our minds, but we need to hear it from an outside source, and that reassures us that we're thinking the right direction. And so we know inside our hearts what we need to work on. The true fellowship is going to come from trying to understand where different people come from and why they feel the way they do. And to understand that, you're going to have to understand what they've experienced, what they've been going through as a people, what their generational experiences look like, what their history of their culture looks like, what they went through back in the day. That all determines who they are now and why they walk the way they walk, why they talk the way they talk, and why they believe what they believe. And so once we understand that, then we have a clear path to that true fellowship. That means true fellowship where we really understand, even though we have a different belief, even though we have a different way of life or a different path that we're traveling, we still understand why they're on that path. And so it comes down to it at the end of the day. It's not about being black or white. It's not about being rich or poor. It's not about being tall or short, blonde hair, brown hair, blue eyes, brown. It doesn't, none of that matters. It matters about good and evil. There's a whole lot of different people that have a different approach that are all doing good things. And when we know that we have a covenant with God and we have a responsibility to honor that covenant and fulfill our obligation in that covenant, we also have to understand that God has other covenants with other people. And just because we don't understand about their covenant doesn't mean that it's not a covenant nonetheless. And just because we don't understand what their duties are doesn't mean that they don't have duties nonetheless. And so when somebody comes to us and they say, we want your people to be our people, we want your God to be our God, who are we to say no to that? I mean, sometimes in these churches and in these religious factions, there's some seclusion. There's some separation. There's some segregation in their congregation. There's only one kind of people that are going to that church, and I think a true church of God would be a church for many people of many denominations and many backgrounds to all come together on one thing they can agree on, is that this is the Most High God, the everlasting living God. And as long as we're following the same direction and the same God, then we should be doing this together. And once we band together, united we stand and divided we fall.